You're listening to a rebroadcast of SOS Spokane episode number 88, originally aired July 25th, 2019.
This is SOS Spokane. We are your progressive, hour-long public affairs program broadcasting here on KYRS, Medical Lake Spokane, 88.1 and 92.3, and streaming live on KYRS.org. I'm Paul Pataki, and I'm joined with James McMillan, and we are, I should say that the views expressed on SOS Spokane are those of the host and his guests and do not necessarily reflect those of KYRS or its underwriters. Today we have two folks from Hospice of Spokane, Joan Poirier, is that correct?
Poirier.
Is the Director of Development and Communications, and Matt Kinder is Director of Social Services. Joan and Matt, thanks both of you for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So let's start with, what is hospice?
Well, hospice care is really designed to meet people's needs at the end of life. So the idea is that death is much more than a medical event, and we want to make sure that we're meeting the holistic needs of every person. So we're looking at the psychological, the social, the existential, the spiritual, in addition to meeting all the physical needs of somebody at the end of life.
But you have no religious affiliations?
Correct.
Okay, great. So people who participate in your programs are free to belong to a religion or none at all?
Exactly.
Okay, great. So then the next question would be, Hospice of Spokane itself as an institution or as an organization, how did it get its start?
So Hospice of Spokane was started by 6 community members back in 1977 who believed that everyone deserved a better way to live out the last end-of-life journey for themselves. They believed that there was a better way to die, that folks needed to take control of that and make each day the very best that it could be. So in 1977, Hospice of Spokane was formed. We are the 12th oldest hospice in the United States.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
yes.
Holy,
We had some very innovative community members who really stepped forward. Johnny Cox is one of those folks who really led the charge and was joined by some amazing other community members who said, let's make this work. We want it in Spokane.
Are any of the people who were instrumental in the foundation of the organization still around?
Yes, they are. Johnny and Barb Cox are still around. Marge Humphrey and Barb Savage.
Oh,
Those are 4 of the 6.
Oh, all right. Well, great.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, your service area does not include just Spokane, even though it is Spokane Hospice, but there are 4 counties that you serve. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, we serve Ferry, Pend Oreille, and Stevens counties as well.
Okay, great. And the type of services that you provide, before we get into the specifics of them, in what circumstances do you provide these services? In other words, do you provide them in home, in nursing homes, in a hospital setting? What are there any restrictions in terms of people who are seeking hospice care and have a medical condition that is terminal?
So 90% of the people that we do serve in their homes. What we say is we will serve you wherever you call home. So that can be in your home, in a retirement community, assisted living, skilled facilities, adult family homes, or at our 2 hospice houses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what are how does one pay for these services?
Medicare and Medicaid are our primary payers. We also, most private insurances also have a hospice benefit. And as our community's nonprofit, we make sure that we're able to provide service to anybody in the community regardless of their ability to pay. So we make sure that we're able to serve everyone in the community.
Okay. Now let's start talking about some of those services in particular.
Sure. When somebody comes on hospice services, well, I'll back up. In order to be eligible for hospice services, an individual needs to have a 6-month or less prognosis. So physicians have to agree that this person, without aggressive treatment, will have a 6-month or less prognosis, and at that point they're deciding to no longer seek curative treatment. The shift has been made from aggressive curative treatment to aggressive palliation or comfort care. Once somebody comes on services, they meet their primary team, which is a nurse and social worker, and depending on their assessment, we can get our nurse aides involved, our medical director, nurse practitioners are involved, we can get volunteers involved, our chaplains or spiritual support as well, and then our bereavement counselors are available in addition to that.
Now, should someone have improvement in their condition or miraculously turn the corner, it is possible then to go off of hospice until such time that they would require it again. Is that right?
Definitely. Yeah, if somebody stabilizes or improves, or just makes the choice to pursue some aggressive treatment, then they can make that choice to sign off of hospice. And some people do stabilize and get better, and then they're able to continue on without hospice care.
And how does the family work into the equation?
So when you provide hospice care, we say we're providing services to the patient and the family. So when you're looking at the medical care, the social emotional care, the bereavement care, our services envelop all of those around the family. We want to be sure they're supported, they're kept informed, they're a part of that decision making, and we say that we want to walk with them in their journey, all of them, and to be there to answer questions, to train, and to make it the best experience possible.
One of the things that impressed me watching some of your videos on your website, and I've already informed you two of this, but I would like our listeners to know that their website is fantastic. I highly recommend anyone to go to it, if for their only reason is to see what a really good website looks like. Because it's really easy to navigate. There's a lot of information. It's really succinct. And but two of the videos that were on there, they were alluding to well. I'll just give two short quotes here. One said, "Make life life, not death," and the other one is, "Help each person live today as fully as they can because it's the only day of their life." And why that struck me is because we, as a society, really shun death, I believe, and we try not to look it in the eye. And the people who go into hospice oftentimes are just considered already dead, pretty much, and that is not your philosophy at all. And that really impressed me when I saw the additional videos on the hospice houses, because there are two here now. That it made me realize that you really take that to heart. And can you explain how that is manifest in your programs and what people are doing with their time when they're in hospice, aside from just getting medical attention and sleeping, taking pills and things of that nature?
So one of the quotes that you shared is from Johnny Cox, who is one of our founders. And it really is about life and living and maximizing the time that you have left. So in hospice care, with Hospice of Spokane, we talk about patient-centered focus. What do you want? How do you want to live out these last days of your life? And we are about working with them and making that happen.
Yeah, in fact, there was a family member in one of the videos who had commented that one of the reasons why she and I believe her sisters were so impressed was that even with the family there, and you're talking about issues that are pertinent to the dying person, that everything was addressed to that person directly, as opposed to, okay, you guys are here to make the decisions for that person.
Right.
And, that may seem subtle to some, but I think that empowers the individual who's going through the process themselves in ways that are really important. the end of life. By the way, how did the two of you, why each you give me a kind of a thumbnail sketch of how you got involved with this particular organization and this type of work?
Well, mine was through meeting Gina Drummond, our CEO, through our community partnership work together in the community. I previously worked with Spokane Public Schools and did community partnership work there. And so we happened to be together at a same meeting, and she introduced me to Hospice of Spokane. I had a chance to visit one of the hospice houses, which is a memorable experience for me. I will never forget. And I have experienced a lot of loss in my life. And when a position came open, I put my name in the hat because I knew that was a place I wanted to be.
Yeah, and for me, I think growing up, I wanted to be in a service profession. So I have experience working with intellectually and physically disabled clients. I also worked in mental health over on the west side, and then was able to work at a local hospital here in town for a little bit before Hospice of Spokane had an opening. And I've just been really drawn to the mission and have stayed because of the people that I am able to work with.
Yeah, and speaking of the mission, I'm going to read it because it's pretty short and it's there's some bullet points. Hospice of Spokane embraces its role as a model for excellence in end-of-life care. We are a nonprofit, non-denominational, community-based organization that affirms life and intends to neither hasten nor prolong death, honors the dignity of the terminally ill, strives to alleviate suffering, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual, provides comprehensive hospice care and services, educates the community about hospice services and end-of-life issues, offers bereavement counseling services and support, and embraces all cultures. That's pretty comprehensive. A couple things that are not that I didn't find on your website that I'm going to ask you about next. What is the organization's position on physician-assisted suicide?
So with physician aid in dying, that's something that is legal here in Washington State. What our organization's stance on that is that we don't participate in the physician aid in dying. However, that doesn't mean that we don't abandon our clients. So essentially, our aim, our goal remains exactly the same, and that's to make sure somebody has as good of quality of life as they can for however long they have left. So we certainly don't want people to feel judged. We want to respect people's right to self-determination. With the physician aid in dying, we don't provide the medications for that. And what we basically do is we still walk with people through their end-of-life process, and if they choose to utilize physician aid in dying, our role remains exactly the same, and that's quality of life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then your, what is it, the pet treatment program? Okay. So I like that you're bringing in the, what is the, poodle doodle or something? That was great. But what about folks that come to the, to one of your hospice houses, let's say, for example, from their previous living situation where they had a pet? Mm-hmm. What happens to the pet that they had? Can they bring them along?
They can bring them along for visits. Mm-hmm. We don't provide care for the pets that come there, but they certainly can come visit. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So is there any help in assisting in terms of finding a temporary or even a permanent home for those pets? Because I know, living in a senior apartment building myself, that people with pets, including myself, that's really as close as a lot of people get to. I mean, that's like their main companion. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe more important than any of their friends or family, in fact. So that becomes a really big concern with a lot of seniors. And perhaps even younger people that might go, you know, say someone had terminal cancer that was quite young. And you do serve younger people as well, right? Yes. Maybe not to the extent that you do the more elderly, but you know, so someone has an attachment to their pet. What happens?
Yeah, we work really hard at finding a home for them. We work really closely with Spokane Animal, and they have a Guardian Angel program where they work on finding a home for pets as well. So, yeah, we have many pet lovers at Hospice of Spokane, so we work really hard at making sure they find good homes.
All right, great. And I'd also like to suggest to people, if they go on the website, to go into the frequently asked questions. There's some great questions here, and I'm gonna, as I told our guests when I first came in, or when they first came in, that this was a very easy preparation for me because the website has so much information and it's laid out really well. So, one of your opening questions is, when should you contact hospice, and who makes the decision?
So anybody can make a referral to Hospice of Spokane. What we need to do is make sure that we communicate with the patient's physician, and also make sure that the client or patient agree to our involvement.
And I think the other thing that is important to say is that folks often wait longer than maybe they need to. And we always like to say, contact us sooner than later, and let us see if we can be involved and help in some way.
Now, do you have capacity limitations? I know that you're dealing with people that are in all types of living situations, obviously, including two of your own houses. So, are there backups or waiting lists or anything of that sort if someone would seek out your services and apply and would qualify?
There's no limitations other than at the hospice houses. Each hospice house is a 12-bed facility, and so we have waiting lists at the hospice houses frequently.
And what's a typical length of a stay there, or is there one?
At the hospice houses, I think our average length of stay might be around a week or so.
Yeah, and the hospice houses are really laid out seemingly very nicely. And again, I would direct people to look at some of the videos that they have up on their website. And incidentally, the website is, what is the website?
www.hospiceofspokane.org.
Oh, okay, great. And we are back. And we are here today talking about Hospice of Spokane with Joan and Matt, and from Hospice of Spokane. And let's get into the services for younger folks, for children, and the width and breadth of what's offered. Maybe let's start with the camp.
Sure. Just last weekend we had what we call Camp Chimepa. It's a grief camp for kids. So kids who are ages 7 through 15 who've lost somebody close to them are eligible to come to camp. We do that out at Camp Luther Haven. We've been doing that for over 20 years. This last weekend we had 52 kids come out to camp. The kids, it's a free camp. It's something that we put on for the community, and so it's free of charge to the kids that come. But the main aim, it's a 3-day, 2-night camp, and the main aim is that the kids are able to come to a very fun camp environment out at Camp Luther Haven on Lake Coeur d'Alene. So they do a lot of really fun, normal camp activities, and then we also have some designated time to talk about the people that they have lost in their life, and they're able to learn some emotional regulation skills. They're able to learn to identify feelings, learn to express feelings. They are able to see that there's all these other kids who've had a similar experience to them. And so they really leave camp not only having a great time, learning how to cope with some difficult feelings, but also really seeing that they're not alone in this journey.
And are there any other individual or group therapy type of programs for children?
Yeah, so we have our connections groups. Those are offered 3 times a year. They're 6-week-long groups, and the kids are in one group while the significant adults in their life are in another group at the same time. So the adults are learning how to support the kids, and the kids are learning how to cope with their grief.
And what about kids who are sick themselves?
Yeah, so we provide services to newborns all the way to 100-plus-year-old folks. We also have a pediatric palliative care program that we're able to serve kids who have a life-limiting illness. They may not yet be on hospice care, but they do have a life-limiting illness, and so we have a nurse and a social worker and chaplain that all work with those kids as well.
So you work in conjunction, obviously, with a lot of individuals, but probably work with a number of other organizations as well, I would gather. Is that right?
Definitely.
Uh-huh. And do you have any that you work in, particularly intimately with?
Well, regarding the kids, we work a lot with Sacred Heart Medical Center. They have a sunflower program, and they're very intertwined with the clients that we serve on our pediatric program.
Mm-hmm. And now you cover the 4 counties. What is it? Ponderay County. What are the 4 counties? There's Spokane County, Ponderay,
Ferry, and Stevens.
Yeah. Okay. And is there anything equivalent to that, let's say, to our immediate into Idaho or to, I notice, okay, so Spokane is down kind of the southeast corner of those 4 counties, right? So what about some of the surrounding counties? Are there equivalent type of services available? If someone happens to be listening in from outside the 4-county area that you service?
I know that there's hospice services. I don't know if they have the same breadth and depth that we do, but there are hospice services in all of those areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about, now you have a veterans program as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that a bit.
So the We Honor Veterans program is what it's called. We're a partner in that organization, and our goal there is to really honor, support, and make sure that any veterans that are coming on service with us, that we recognize them for their services, and that where we're able to, we love to be able to match them with a volunteer who has also been a veteran, so that they're able to share experiences, life stories. We want to know as staff so that we can also give that same presence to our patients. One of the biggest and most important things that we can do is listen and be present to those that we're serving. And so particularly for those veterans to hear and to let them share with us and be a part of so many of those experiences that they've had in life.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you have a Bill of Rights for patients. Mm-hmm. And I happen to know that a lot of people will hesitate about going into hospice because they fear that they're being disempowered. So let's talk a little bit about allaying those fears and your patient Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
I would really say that we are empowering them, not
right. No, I understand
yeah.
that. I'm talking about what people have in their head,
right,
not
right.
going into your organization
no.
and using it. But what do you do to allay their fears?
So the Patient Bill of Rights is something that we do share, that it comes, I believe, through the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, that all hospice organizations have. And in terms of what it offers is just really laying out for patients what their rights are. Mm-hmm. For us, we want to be able to make sure that they're aware of them, but more importantly, to make sure that they know that we are empowering them to be in charge and to help make decisions through this end-of-life journey.
I think one of our core values is really honoring the inherent dignity and worth of each person. And so a big piece of that is honoring people's right to self-determination, their right to make choices. And so we really want to continually find out what's most important to them. How are they, not only how are they physically, but how are they within? How are they, within themselves? And so what is most important, and how can we do, what can we do to make sure that we're honoring their wishes?
Mm-hmm. So let's say someone is listening in and they're in their 20s or 30s and they're kind of searching around for a career. Now, we know that the baby boomers are getting old and that perhaps the largest growth industry arguably is healthcare for seniors, for the aging population that we have in the United States. What types of careers are available in general in terms of hospice? Not necessarily with your organization right now, but what sort, if someone were interested, perfectly healthy individual seeking to go to school or having graduated and is looking to do some good in the world and would like to get into hospice care, what sorts of positions are available in the context of hospice?
Mm-hmm.
So we have nurses, we have nurse aides, we have social workers, we have chaplains, and we have bereavement counselors. We have we have management positions, we have finance positions, and of course HR. But in terms of the health care, numerous nursing positions, nurse aides, social workers are key to making sure we are staffed to be able to serve those in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And on any given day, we're serving about 300 patients. So we are staffed at about 170 staff to provide those services.
What's the breakdown of that 300? I mean, how many are, so you have 12 beds in each of your hospice houses. That's 24.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be the breakdown of the remaining 270?
So 92% are served in their homes. And then the remaining are either in our hospice houses or in facilities, adult family homes.
Now, how does that work in the homes? Okay, say you have two different people who are going through hospice. One has a very small apartment, and another one has a large, let's say 400 square foot house or 500, whatever, something that would take a considerable amount of maintenance. How do you approach each of those two situations?
Yeah, we obviously are in a variety of different settings throughout the community. So, we've served people who live in their automobile in very sparse settings, and then obviously people who have a lot of means.
Let me stop you there. You're saying that you actually serve people who live in their cars?
It is rare, but we have. Yeah, now that we have the hospice houses, frequently we're obviously able to get them into the hospice house. Before the hospice house, we did have some people that didn't have a place to live, and our nurses and social workers would literally meet them underneath a bridge in their car and make sure that their needs were getting met.
Do you work with any of the correctional facilities in the area?
Do we provide services in them?
Right, yeah.
No, unfortunately, we're not able to.
Why is that?
Is there anybody who is able to, or like what happens with a terminally ill patient at like the Airway Heights facility, or?
Our assumption is that they have their medical staff there to meet their needs, or they go to the hospital. We have had some people who are in their very final days that have discharged from those settings into our hospice house, but it's been pretty rare.
Well, you mentioned you can't do that. Is that some sort of legal entanglement, or?
I don't know. That's a very good question.
Because I was going to ask, and I'm thanks James for asking a question, because I was going to follow up with the car thing about the homeless population. I mean, there are people who are on the streets as well who are in their last days as well. I mean, is there a way of identifying these people? Is there any kind of system that working through, say, Catholic Charities or through one of the other shelters, the Gospel Union Gospel Mission, where they inform you that someone is in needs hospice? Yeah,
it typically happens that maybe they're hospitalized, and then we get the referrals through the hospital. But the House of Charity, we've worked really closely with them on having some patients actually reside there. And for the most part, people are hospitalized, and then they come to the hospice house now.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Now, if your beds are full, do you end up providing it like in the case of somebody who is homeless, would you provide services just like in the hospital setting, like Sacred Heart or Deaconess, or do they have staff there that kind of does that, or do they still bring in Hospice of Spokane?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many beds House of Charity has, but we have had clients there before. So, I can't answer that definitively on how many beds they have.
No, oh, sorry. I meant when your beds are full. Like, so if you don't have room and there's, maybe it's a bad week and you get 3 new referrals from patients who are right now, like, they're in the hospital and they're ill. Do you just start meeting their needs there instead of worrying about, where you're going to move them to or things like that?
Yeah, we
Okay.
would serve them in the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's turn to palliative care and just what that is and how it is manifest by your organization. What services you provide.
Mm-hmm. So palliative care is really an umbrella term, meaning comfort care. So hospice is palliative care. It's just kind of further upstream, I guess is one way you could describe it. So hospice care is palliative care, but palliative care also can be provided in more curative settings. So it's really about providing comfort, managing symptoms, and that is obviously physical symptoms, but also the psychosocial, spiritual, psychological issues as well.
So that would include painkillers, massage, counseling from either psychological counseling or religious spiritual counseling. Would that fall under the umbrella?
Definitely, yeah. Physical suffering, emotional suffering are very interrelated, and so if we can help manage one, we can oftentimes help manage the other.
And what about medical equipment? How does that handle? Because some medical equipment is quite expensive, and if you have someone that has less than good insurance, how is something of that nature handled?
Yeah, the wonderful thing about hospice care is that we're able to provide all the durable medical equipment that somebody needs. So if somebody needs a hospital bed, if they need a wheelchair, a walker, a cane, bedside commode, we provide any medical equipment in the home that they need.
But what about things like oxygen? Or,
oxygen as well.
All of these sort of things.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I imagine if someone's going, I'm assuming that you don't go into hospice until after, let's say you have cancer and you've gone through treatments for radiation and chemo. That's stopped by the time you get into hospice, right? You're not actually continuing that care. Is that right? Okay.
Right.
So that's not a part of the whole thing. So, but your people will come in and provide comfort also in terms of turning people in bed should they have a difficult time with that, and so it's hands-on as well as the equipment.
Yeah, and there's also the medications as well. So any medications that are related to the terminal diagnosis and related to their comfort, that's something that we pay for and that we deliver to their house.
And bathing and what about the meals?
Meals is not something that we provide. Our volunteers will sometimes be able to do that, come to clients' homes and cook them food. One misperception sometimes is that we're just going to move into somebody's house and provide 24/7 care. We don't do that. We do have 24/7 availability of staff, but we're not providing the hands-on care 24/7.
And so once the patient has passed, and what are there follow-up programs for the friends and family?
Yeah, so we have our bereavement support we mentioned for the kids, but we also have it for family and friends as well. So after somebody dies, we make sure that our bereavement counselors are available to them. We provide bereavement services for at least 13 months following the death, and so that's covered under the hospice benefit. So we provide individual counseling, and then we also have a number of support groups that not only are offered here in Spokane, but we have support groups up in Newport and Colville as well.
So if someone comes in, let's say to one of your hospice houses, and they are still they're still mobile, okay, and can participate in kind of social things. What do they do with their time? I mean, are there fun things to do?
So I would say 99.9% of the patients that go into the hospital or the hospice house are there because they need 24-hour care. So that isn't often the case, but we do have patients who come in who enjoy music, may want a volunteer to sit and sing or play piano with them. We have the great room where they can go and sit by the fireplace and read a book, or go to the kids' room and be with family members. Whatever their activities, what their desires are, certainly we'll find a way to make that happen and work with them. But typically for the hospice house, they're at the hospice house needing that more intensive care.
In our community, we have so many skilled nursing facilities and assisted living facilities and adult family homes that provide very good long-term care. And that's really, our goal is not to provide long-term care in the hospice house. It's really for really the final days of somebody's life.
Mm-hmm. And if someone really wants to stay in their house and does not want to go to another, facility, whether it be the hospice house or, another facility, how easily can they do that? I mean, are there any tripwires that say, okay, we can no longer provide service in-house for you because, or can someone be rest assured that if they get into the program and they want to stay where they are for the last remaining days of their life, that they can do that?
Yeah, it really depends on how much support they have. Do they have family and friends that can provide support? Are they eligible for the COPES program and have in-home care that's paid for through the state? Really, it's about safety. We want to make sure people are safe in their own homes. So, the only times that we kind of will say that it's not a good idea is if they're not able to make their own choices, or sometimes settings are not safe for staff even. Sometimes we're in situations where there might be some drug activity or things like that that is not safe for the client or even for our staff to be in.
Okay, and then tell us about your mobile medicine, that program.
Okay, so our mobile med program, we have a nurse practitioner that will provide primary medical care to. Primarily, it's for people who are living in long-term care settings, and oftentimes they're people who have dementia. So what we've found is that people who have dementia, it's really difficult for them to leave their setting. It can oftentimes cause some increased confusion or some agitation. And so if we're able to provide those primary physician visits in their setting, then we can help better manage their care. And so we've got not only our hospice care, we've got our palliative care programs, and then we've got our mobile medicine program. So mobile medicine is even further upstream from the hospice and the palliative care.
Okay, great. So we are here with Joan Poirier and Matt Kinder from Hospice of Spokane, and we are going to take our last break, and we will be right back. And we are back with folks from Hospice of Spokane. And Joan, we were just talking about asking the question, why would folks choose hospice?
I think hospice care is one of those things that not everybody is aware of or knows its purpose or why they may need it. And I think we want people to know that when someone is facing a terminal illness and is wondering what this end of journey is going to look like, there's some important conversations that they may want to have. There may be questions that they're going to have. Family members are going to have questions. And we would love the opportunity to be there with them to help them process through those. Pain and symptom management is another key piece of hospice care. Patients have said, I'm done with any kind of aggressive treatment or curative treatment. I just need help moving on through the next steps. Mm-hmm. And so we are able to do that with them. Social services. What is it that they need? What kind of resources? You mentioned meals, somebody to help come in with meals. Meals on wheels, if that's something that they might need. Spiritual support, if that's something that's important to their life. Bathing and personal care. Respite care. I don't know that we touched on respite care, but if the caretaker, family members are they're providing this care to their loved one, but perhaps they need to be out of town for a few days, or they need a little bit of a break. Through hospice benefit, we provide respite care, which means for up to 5 days, the patient with space available can move into the hospice house for 5 days, and that family then can do what they need to do. And then inpatient care at the hospice house is something that we also can offer. And then that bereavement support following the loss. So there are lots of pieces that sometimes until you get in the thick of it, you don't think about needing. And by working with an hospice organization such as ours, we're able to help through those with the family and patient.
Okay, fantastic. And we're going to be talking now for the last few minutes about some of your upcoming events and about some opportunities people might have for volunteering and what they might expect to go through in order to qualify to be a volunteer. But first, I just want to give you kudos for the newsletter. I noticed that every single contributor, whether they contributed $20,000 or $1, is listed in your list of contributors. And I think that that's fantastic. I wish that every nonprofit were to do that because, people have different economic situations, and by giving them, everyone who is contributing a shout out, I think that shows to the whole community that it's not the amount of money, it's really the meaning of giving to worthy causes that's really important. So that said, let's talk next about volunteering for your organization and what that entails. And I know that you have some sessions that are coming up that are required if one were to volunteer. But if you can talk about your volunteer program, that would be great.
Yeah, we depend on our volunteers immensely. We have over 300 volunteers, and they do a number of different things. Joan mentioned respite, and the respite doesn't always have to be a 5-day respite. It can really be a couple of hours during the day. And so a lot of times our volunteers will be providing 3 to 4 hours of respite for the caregiver who can run errands, go do shopping, take a nap, things like that. So what we find is our volunteers come to us with a whole variety of skills. And so some people have musical skills, some people are really good at being present and listening, some people can play games, some people do light housekeeping, some people do cooking. But really whatever skill somebody has can be utilized in the hospice setting. In order to be a hospice volunteer, we of course have thorough background checks, and then we have a training. We offer trainings, daytime trainings or evening trainings, and so if someone's interested, they just need to contact us at Hospice of Spokane and ask for our volunteer department, and we can give any information regarding the trainings themselves and the different opportunities that we have.
Mm-hmm. And am I right that that you actually have an application online? I thought I saw something to that.
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So they could go there and look through that and maybe fill that out and then contact you or
Sure.
send that off and you contact them.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And when are these sessions going to be held? Well, if you don't have the information,
we may have to refer folks to our website. I'm sorry, Paul.
Again, it's a great website,
Yeah.
so you'll be able to find it quite easily. So let's go on to the upcoming event, which is right here real soon, the Scramble for Hospice.
So donations are important to Hospice of Spokane. We have a very generous community, and as you mentioned, the newsletter and the list of donors who give to us. But our fundraisers are a key piece of that. And so we have 2 a year. One is our golf scramble, which is right around the corner. It's going to be on August 2nd out at Indian Canyon Golf Course. We have 144 golfers already signed up to participate. We are sold out, unfortunately, for any listeners who might have wanted to join us. We have amazing sponsors who have gotten behind the event, and it really is about coming together on a day for a great cause, raising money for Hospice of Spokane. Mm-hmm. And then the second one will be be held in February 22nd. We call it Taste of Life. It's held in the evening at the Spokane Club. And again, our community is behind us. We have lots of purveyors, those pouring wines and beers and ciders, donating their time and beverages. The Spokane Club chef there pairs his tastes with the purveyors' drinks that they're bringing to share, and a big silent auction. And really, it's a chance to bring people together, to bring awareness to Hospice of Spokane, to educate about what we do, and to have fun and raise money at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And so you've got the fundraising events, but do you have any sort of membership apparatus, or is it simply you either volunteer or you give money?
So there are lots of ways to support Hospice of Spokane. We do not have a membership. We have, as Matt was talking, all kinds of volunteers. One of the things that come to mind for me are our quilters in the community who have donated their time and talent, who are coming in and bringing quilts all the time that our nurses and social workers will take out to patients and families. We had them come together and make quilts so that each child at Camp Chimepa this year was able to leave and go home with a quilt. The donations that come in help provide our expanded bereavement programs, the 2 hospice houses that we have, and as we said earlier, we aren't going to turn anyone away on ability to pay. So between donations, volunteer, attending our events, helping in the offices, however folks want to get involved, we urge them to give us a call, and we welcome their support.
Okay, and would you like to give the telephone number and the address for your website as well?
Absolutely. Our phone number is 509-456-0438, and the website is www.hospiceofspokane.org.
So let's, for the last few minutes, I'd like to talk about some of these other organizations that you work with. In particular, I was impressed that you have a page on your website of online resources. Can you talk about any of these?
I think one of the things, in terms of the resources that are listed on the website, we have a lot of people in the communities, the skilled nursing facilities, the hospitals, assisted living, social service organizations within the community. Depending upon what our patients or families are needing, we want to do our very best to find resources to meet those needs. United Way is another big supporter of ours, and so we are a business partner with them. And I think we feel like we have a community of support and resources available, that if they don't see what they're looking for on the website, to certainly give us a call, and we'll try and do our very best to get them connected.
So you serve somewhat as a clearinghouse for these various resources?
I don't know if I would call it a clearinghouse. We do oftentimes get folks who will email and say, we have this information that we'd love to be able to share to families who you are working with. And so assuming that it matches around our mission and philosophy and services that we're providing or complements it, we'll put it on the website, because we want to be as inclusive and cover as many possible resources for families as possible.
Okay. And any final thoughts from you, Matt, about the organization?
I would just say, when Joan was talking about why hospice, we have so many talented, skilled clinicians at Hospice of Spokane. But even, I think, almost more importantly than that is our aim is to really serve people compassionately, to really honor people and their inherent worth and dignity. In many ways, I think that we get paid to love and serve people, and I think that that's really, really part of who we are. Is we want to help care for people and serve others well, and so it's really an honor for us. It's a privilege for when we're invited into somebody's home and able to provide them with our services.
Oh, and that's the last thing I need to ask you about. We're almost out of time, but you will go to established apartments and residences and give presentations or civic organizations. Is that correct?
We love the opportunity to do that.
And you do it yourself,
Absolutely.
Joan?
Me and my team, yes.
You and your team.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Joan Poyet and Matt Kinder, thank you so much for being here today. We really, really do appreciate you coming in. And thanks.
Thank you.
So this is SOS Spokane on KYRS Community Radio 88.1 and 92.3 FM. Thanking all our listeners for tuning in. We hope you join us again next week, and until then, I urge us all to research, question, verify, and act on truth and justice. Stay informed.